Hey, what's going on, horror movie lovers all over the world? You already know what it is. It's your favorite internet sweaty, your boy Mikey Savage 21 or MS21, whatever the heck you want to call me, bringing you another sweaty movie review. And today's sweaty movie review, we're going to be taking a look at the 2019 film Happy Death Day to You, which serves as the sequel to the 2017 film Happy Death Day. Once again, it is being directed by Christopher Landon and is being produced by Jason Blum. Also returning stars Jessica Rothe and Israel Broussard, playing the characters of Tree and Carter respectively. And again, this film follows Tree Gelbman, and once again she finds herself reliving the same day repeatedly after being hunted and killed by a masked assailant, only now this time her friends are also targets. Alright, so this movie was interesting to say the least. Again, I came to the party of Happy Death Day late, like I always do with a lot of these horror films. I didn't get a chance to check it out when it came out in theaters. I ended up having to grab it later on Blu-ray and DVD, and I can honestly say that I fell in love with that film. Because one thing that I can always say is I love when a story uses the whole Groundhog Day effect, and that's what I'm going to be referring to it as in this film, the Groundhog Day effect, where you're stuck reliving the same day over and over again until you ultimately learn a lesson or you discover something that's keeping you here on this earth and keeping you from passing on. And again, this film is no different, but what it does is it takes that concept and now it applies it to her friends. Now again, this is going to be non-spoiler, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about what's going on. But basically, again, you have Tree and Carter's friend, Ryan, Samar, and Dre, and they're all working on this project, and they ultimately end up stumbling upon something, and it causes Tree to basically have to relive over and over and over again, except this time it's having a couple more negative consequences. This time, she's actually feeling it every time she comes back. And that's, again, all I can say before I start dwelling into spoiler territory. But what I can really say about this film is I enjoyed it as much as I did the first one. I'm curious to see if they decide to make more of these films. But again, the whole concept, this time it's leaning more into science fiction comedy, more so than the first one did. I felt like the first one was more of a slasher horror film. This one takes it the more comedic route, and we focus in more on the comedic stylings as opposed to the horror stylings. Now, that's not to say that there aren't a couple of moments in here where things get a little bit hectic and a little bit crazy. And while this one leads more towards comedy, when the horror is on screen, it's definitely very effective. Now, one of the reasons the first one was so effective and worked so well was the character dynamic. So how were the characters this time around? I have to commend Jessica Rothe. She brought a performance like she did in the first one. I really enjoyed her character. Again, I felt like the director was able to get a great performance out of her. And again, I still felt for Tree when she's having to relive the same day over and over again, but again with more negative consequences, and the director does a good job of showing you those consequences on screen. It isn't one of those things where it's implied consequences. No, you actually see the consequences. But what I also think what the director did with this is he also peeled back a couple of more layers to Tree's character. We got to see a little bit more of her interaction with her father and how this whole thing with her mother played out and how she wishes she could go back and just relive the days with her mother. And of course, also, if we're talking about character performances, I have to give props to Israel Broussard. Again, we're playing Carter Davis, the love interest of Tree. He was a very interesting in the first one. I found him to be quite interesting, and I can say the same thing for this one. However, I do feel like he isn't as big of a main character as he was in the first one. He definitely does have standout moments, but it seems like his buddy Ryan, played by Feeview. Again, guys, I'm not great at pronouncing names. You guys know this by now. I felt like the story focused more so on Ryan this time as opposed to Carter, because I feel like we didn't get much from Ryan, but we got a lot from Carter in the last film. So this time it's like a complete role reversal in terms of learning how this whole thing is working, learning why Tree is stuck living the same day once again over and over again, even though she found out who her killer was at the end of Happy Death Day. And again, I think what the director was able to do was take that concept and apply it more. Now again, the interesting thing is going to be to see where he goes with these characters if he does decide to come back and do another film. One of the other things that I have to commend Landon for in this film is, again, the side characters. The side characters were very interesting, and while they weren't given much to do in this film, I still felt like they were utilized pretty well and had some very humorous and comedic moments in this film. However, once again, they're not used as effectively as they could be. I felt like we were getting this whole story about how it was supposed to affect her friends, but it looks like it's more so affecting her as opposed to her friends. So again, that could have been a little bit of a misdirect with the marketing for this film. I don't know. Again, some of the trailers weren't the best in the world, but I felt like that was also a bit of a misstep. But when they were on screen and when they were fully utilized in their comedic moments, they were actually pretty genuinely funny. And so So I'm glad that this film again focused in a little bit more on the comedy. Now, with that being said, some of the negatives that didn't really work for me was, again, some of the horror aspects. Again, they try to give you this twist about a new killer being introduced this time around into the film, and I felt like when we get the ultimate reveal of who the villain is, it's just kind of like, yeah, we kind of saw that coming, you know, and we didn't get too much behind our killer this time around. At least with the first one, when it was revealed that it was Laurie who was the killer, again, spoiler alert if you have not seen the first film, that was interesting. I honestly didn't see that coming. That threw me for a loop. However, with this one, this time it takes it and it just kind of, it keeps showing you too much of who the killer is. But again, one of the negatives is, like I said, I wish it would have had a little bit more horror in it, and that way when the horror moments come in, you felt a little bit more tense about it, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I feel like this horror moment is going to lead into a gag somewhere down the line. So again, overall, my final thoughts on the film, I do think it was a solid sequel. Again, not as great as the first one, but still a solid sequel nonetheless. When the comedy is hitting, it's firing on all cylinders, and when the subtle moments of horror are hitting, then they're firing on all cylinders as well. But again, I do feel like because of the comedic sense, we weren't able to get a real true horror story out of this one. Plus, again, some of the whole science fiction aspects that they added into the film this time sometimes felt a little bit overwhelming. It started to feel more so like Back to the Future Part 2, where it was still just as great, but it got very confusing towards the end. But nonetheless, I do say, you guys, you need to go and check it out. I really do think you would enjoy this film. Alrighty, everyone, that has been my non-spoilers review for the movie Happy Death Day to You. Let me know, what do you guys think down in the comment section below about Happy Death Day to You? Do you think this is a good sequel? Do you think this is as good as the first one? Let me know down in the comment section below, as well as let me know if you plan to go check it out this weekend or if you checked it out this past weekend. Hey, if you enjoyed this movie review and you'd like to see more reviews, then hey, check out the video that I got right over here somewhere located on either side. I did a non-spoiler review for the horror film The Prodigy. Really interesting film. Really recommend you go check it out. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I hope you all have a sweat-tastic day. Peace out.